Welcome to the Filming with Josh podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Milligan, and this is episode number 119, How Live Streaming Became One of My Most Profitable Video Production Services.
This is the Filming with Josh podcast, brought to you by Rustic River Media. Welcome to the videographer's home for tips, tricks, and how to make flicks.
Welcome back to another episode of the Filming with Josh podcast. If you are new to the podcast, Filming with Josh is your home for tips, tricks, and how to make flicks. This podcast has been around for quite a while now, so we have a lot of episodes you can dig through. So be sure to go check out our podcast on either Spotify or Apple Podcast or YouTube. The YouTube episodes are fairly new. I didn't start doing the YouTube episodes until episode like 100 or so. So there's not as many there, but if you go check our Apple Podcasts or the podcast on Spotify, you can go all through 119 episodes, including today's. Today's episode is about live streaming. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I've been doing a lot of live streaming over the past handful of weeks. And also even earlier this year, I've done quite a bit of live streaming projects so far in 2026. And I tend to do quite a few live streaming projects each and every year. And they are, without a doubt, some of the most profitable production services that I offer. And that's why I want to talk about it today, because if you are looking for a way to strengthen what you can do with your video production services, this is a great route to go down. Now, I'm going to be upfront with you. This is an expensive endeavor. If you are really and truly interested in offering professional broadcast quality live stream productions, it's going to set you back some money. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. But let's talk about why it's completely worth it. This is not the first live streaming episode I've done on this podcast. In fact, I've done one by myself and then one with a friend of mine, Danny Dodge. We did these episodes several years ago, but I want to do a new one because my live streaming services since then have gotten even bigger and better. I've improved certain areas. I've learned more. And so I feel like doing a new episode that touches on kind of what I'm offering today is a little more relevant than the past episodes I've done. So feel free to go back and listen to those if you are interested. But today's episode is a refreshed version that's going to dive into why I offer live streaming, how I offer live streaming, and why it is lucrative. Let's chat about it. So, I first started offering live streaming services back in 2017. I had won a contract to shoot a series of 10 TED Talks for Texas State University for this really big TED event they were putting on. We ended up doing this event 2 years in a row. The second year was 12 speakers, but the first year there were 10 speakers, and I hired a crew to film this, and we had 5 cameras with 4 camera operators, and we filmed all the TED Talks from 5 different cameras. We had like 1 stationary camera and 4 manned cams. And then I had another camera operator who was floating around capturing the event itself, because it was more than just the talks. They put on this whole huge event. It was really cool. And that person was capturing footage for us to use for promoting the event the following years. So it was a pretty in-depth project. And I won the bid for it. And not long after I won the bid, when we were in the middle of pre-production, Texas State actually calls me and says, "Hey, what are the odds we could live stream these TED Talks?" And the reason why they asked me this is because they had sold out of tickets for this event immediately, and had a lot of people that wanted to still watch the TED Talks. And Texas State was like, how can we make this available to more people than just the in-house crowd? So the university started selling online tickets to be watched online so people could purchase those tickets and watch the live stream. The only problem was we had to find a way to stream it. So they came to me and were like, "Hey, this is what we want to do. We want to sell these tickets, but before we do that, we need to know that you're capable of live streaming and what that would cost." And I was completely honest with them. At that time, I had never live stream before, never really dabbled in it. In 2017, live streaming was still fairly new. I mean, it was around, but it wasn't around like it is today, especially since COVID. So for me, it was something I had never ventured into. But I told him, I was like, look, I'll do some research. I'll see what I can dig up, and I'll get back to you. So I did a little digging and ended up figuring out that the most cost-effective and simplest solution to add live streaming for that project would be to take one of my cameras, which I decided to make the A-cam. At that time, my A-cam was an FS7. So I was like, I'm going to take the FS7. I'm going to use a Blackmagic Design video converter. I'm going to convert the HDMI feed so it can be inputted via Thunderbolt to my old Mac laptop that I had at the time. And then I'll launch OBS and select the Blackmagic capture or device as a capture source for video and audio. And for video, it would be the FS7's feed. And for audio, it would be the audio off the FS7. And my thought was I could take a mix from the front of house. I was taking a mix already anyway into a recorder for post-production, but I was like, I could take a separate mix from front of house, plug it into the FS7 as an input via XLR, and select line in. And that would give me audio. And I'll just select in OBS the FS7 as the video source and as the audio source, or really the Blackmagic converter. And that would allow me to go live on my A-cam. The only thing is that I wasn't going to have any way to switch cameras or add cameras. I wasn't going to have any way to add slides or lower thirds or anything like that. And I didn't really have the manpower or the experience to do any of that anyway, because this was all very new to me. So I called Texas State back and I was like, look, here's what I can do. If you buy this device for me, which it wasn't really expensive, it was like $150, $250, something like that. It's like, if you buy this device for me, I won't charge you a service fee to use it because this will be my first time. But buy it for me. We'll call it even, and I'll learn how to use it for this particular event. And they were all for it. And they didn't mind that there would be no opening or closing slides or break slides or lower thirds or graphics or anything like that. Like, they were totally fine with just simply going live on a camera with audio. And so they started selling tickets to the online crowd, and we went live on the FS7, and it was great. I had to really baby the camera, because I'm live now, which I wasn't used to doing, but it allowed me to offer live streaming for this event for my client. And people loved it. And so after the event was over, I started diving a little deeper into live streaming. It was like, well, this is a service I could maybe add and into my repertoire and be able to offer to people, but I need to learn more about it. So I did a bunch of research after this event was over with, and I ended up buying my first ATEM. It was the original ATEM Mini Extreme ISO 4-input ATEM, which allowed you to switch between 4 camera inputs. And I learned how to use that and how to use the ATEM software control, and started just teaching myself how to do multi-camera live streaming. And then from there, it just progressed. And over time, I started adding more cameras. I got a bigger switcher. I started adding different audio sources. I started adding different internet sources. I started adding ways to do lower thirds and slides and instant replay. And it has just exploded over the years. And I've now been live streaming for about 9, almost 10 years at this point. And it has grown exponentially, not just in terms of that side of my business, but just in the ability that we have, like what we are able to offer customers has grown exponentially. And because of that, I've been able to kind of get a market for myself here in Texas because, and this is one of the things I want to talk about in this podcast, there's not a ton of people that can do a professional broadcast quality live stream. And what does that mean? What is a professional broadcast quality live stream? Well, for one, it's a lot better than what I did with Texas State, where I had a camera and a capture card. It's a broadcast, in my mind, a broadcast quality professional live stream production. And I say production because it is genuinely a production. It involves usually multiple cameras, various audio sources. You have to have a way to mix all that. You have to have a way to input. If you're doing like speaker presentations, you need to be able to input slides, pre-made videos, lower thirds, or other graphics. If you're wanting to get into sports streaming, you need some way to do instant replay, scoreboards that are live. I mean, there's a lot that you can dive into in all this. Eventually you might want to start going wireless, so you need some sort of wireless systems like Teradek units or something comparable. You need comms to communicate with your teams. Like, you can go like deep down the rabbit trail, which is what I've done. But it allows me to be able to offer to clients basically a polished video product like they would typically pay for, but in real time. And that is something that not a ton of people offer when in comparison to the general video market. I mean, just think about it. There are literally hundreds of thousands, probably millions. I'm assuming millions of people out there who offer video production services. And the skill levels all over the map, right? Like, you have people that are just getting started. You have people that have been doing video production services for 30 years. You have people that are really talented. You have people that don't have a lot of skills but have a camera. And so it's kind of all over the place. And live streaming is kind of similar, but here's the difference. When you think about the number of people that do video production in general, because there are so many people out there doing video, it makes it very competitive, which makes it harder to compete, right? Because you have to go out and fight against all these other people, and everyone's quality is getting better. YouTube is helping people learn how to shoot better, how to edit better. And so over time, you start to see this like increase in production quality across the board from people all over the world who are offering video services. And of course, there's still differences, right? You have your highest end video production services with really big screws, boop, boop, boop. Your really big crews. And then you have, the one-man band approach. So there's still like obviously differences in scale, but across the board, cameras are pretty good, and there are a lot of talented people out there. And as a result, the market is very competitive. And so you're trying to sell your services in a very competitive market. And you might be very successful at that. I mean, I've built a career out of that myself. But especially where I live here in Central Texas, there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of video production companies, whether it is the one-man band or the full-on crew or something in between. And so I'm every day, probably like you who is listening to this podcast, having to go out and fight against the competition to try to put my work out there, to try to build client relationships and get projects, and do that in a sea of competitiveness that's just absolutely everywhere. And you can't say, well, my work is better than others, because you're always going to find someone who's better than you. That's just reality. I mean, there's a lot of talented people out there. But when you look at live streaming, there's not near the same level of competition because there's not nearly as many people who offer it. Part of that's because it's more complicated. And there's a lot more risk. There's a lot more that can go wrong. And then another part of it is that if you want to do it at scale, like a larger production, it does require a lot of gear, a lot of knowledge, and quite frankly, a lot of experience. And the only way to get that experience is to either work for another company and learn from them, or to do what I did and go out and figure it out on your own, which is going to involve some trial and error. You might fall on your face. You might have something go wrong. But that's the reality, is like, you need the gear, you need the experience, and you need the know-how in order to be successful in live streaming. Now, some of that depends on the scale, right? I mean, live streaming could be as simple as taking your cell phone out and going to Facebook Live. And that's a lot different than like a full-on broadcast style production. But if you want to get into live stream productions, where in my mind it is very lucrative, there's just not a lot of people that do that. And that, again, goes back to the risk, the gear, the experience, and the knowledge. But that said, for those people who are willing to take the time to learn about it, who are willing to invest in the gear, and who are willing to acquire that knowledge or that skill set and get that experience, you can put yourself in a market that is far less competitive than general video production. And here's the other thing. Clients, for the most part, and I say for the most part because obviously This can't be a completely blanket statement, but for the most part, clients understand that live streaming is a specialty service, and that depending on the scale that they're looking for, they understand that it's going to cost. Now, again, that may not apply to every single person out there, but most people understand if they pick up the phone and call you and are looking to live stream an event or a conference or something like that, they probably already know it's going to cost quite a bit of money. They just assume that because they know it's complicated and they know it's a specialty service. So from that perspective, you're not having to justify your pricing in the same way that you are when you're trying to do video production, like general video production. And that is what I love about live streaming. Like I get a call, it's a corporate company, for example, and they want to do this really big conference. They've got a bunch of speakers lined up, and they want you to come in, do a multi-camera live stream, handle sound. A lot of times they want you to handle not just a live stream sound, but front of house, and they want you to be able to do slides and the whole presentation. And they know, they expect that that's going to cost. And that is what I love about live streaming. The other thing I love about it too is once it's over, it's over. There's no post-production. Unless you try to upsell your services, which I do this, which is essentially with my ATEM. I have the Mini Extreme ISO, the 8 input one now. And we do record ISO tracks and project files in real time of everything that we do. And so we can offer post-production services for people who want to go back and, let's say it is a conference and they want to cut those individual speakers into individual videos that they can upload later separately. You can offer those post-production services as an add-on, but it's just additional revenue. And if they don't want to do it, fine. And in which case, when you're done with your stream, you're done with your stream. And your job's over with. Whereas with video production, you're usually working with the client to write scripts. You're coming in, you're bringing a crew, you're shooting the project. Then you got to go home and handle post. And there's a lot of pre-production involved in a big live stream event. But once you show up and do it, that's it. You pack up, you go home, job's done, unless you've upsold. And that is something that I really like about it. And it kind of takes that whole post-production element out of the equation, again, unless you upsell, which I do prefer to upsell, but it doesn't always happen. But either way, if they do upsell, it's extra cash in your pocket, or you go home and the job's done. So that's the beauty about live streaming is when it's done typically, and you can more easily justify your prices. It's a less competitive field, especially the bigger not quality, but the bigger production that you pull off. And if you're able to pull it off well, then yeah, I mean, customers expect to pay. And that's what I love about it. I can make a lot more money live streaming per day, per my time, than I can doing a standard video production. I mean, way more money per day. And it just boils down to the fact that it's a specialty service. It requires a lot of gear, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of experience to pull it off. So that's what I love about professional live streaming. Now, what does that look like? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of the gear I have and what I use it for, and dive into the weeds a little bit on this whole live stream process. Right now, when you look at the live streaming services that my company offers, we currently offer 5 tiers of streaming. The first one is what we call the rapid stream. This is a very basic live streaming service. This is one camera, one audio source, and does include 4G bonded internet. So this is very basic. This is something that doesn't take up a large footprint, and it's something I can pop up and go live with in honestly a matter of minutes. So this is great for like live news, public service announcements, ribbon cuttings, things like that. So for example, let's say you are hired to go show up at a venue where the governor of, in my case, the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott's going to be showing up. He's going to be speaking on some bill that just got passed or something that just happened, and he's going to come. There's usually a bunch of mics that are being fed into a board. You can hook up to that board, run it into the camera, so you're getting his audio feed, and send the audio and video from the camera via HDMI back to what I have, which is a YOLO box. Some people use Live View. I use YOLO Box Extreme over Live View. I like it better personally. I think it's more more versatile. But I have this YOLO Box Extreme, and basically what it is, it's like think of it like a thick iPad. And I have it set up to where it mounts on the back of my FX6 via rails. And so it literally mounts to the back of my FX6. It's got a screen built in. It does bonded internet, which we'll talk about in a minute. And you can roll an intro slide, an outro slide. You can have a lower third. You can build the lower third in Photoshop and send it to the YOLO Box ahead of time. Or you can literally build it with a pre-made graphic template on the YOLO Box itself. But what it allows me to do is run bonded internet, quickly go live to whatever source we want to go to, say YouTube or something like that, or plug in a custom RTMP key, and we can quickly go live on a single camera right on the back of the camera. The YOLO Box itself has like a 10-hour battery life on the extreme version I have. And so you have this big screen with a 10-hour battery life, bonded internet. You can go live on it right away. You can add lower thirds and intro, outro slides or graphics really, really quickly. You can load pre-made videos on it via an SD card. And again, I have it set up to where it mounts in the back of my FX6, so I can literally show up for like breaking news or a public service announcement, something like that, and I can just open a tripod, put my FX6 on the tripod, put the YOLO Box on rails on the back of the FX6, connect an HDMI cable from the FX6 to the YOLO Box, and connect up and go live like instantly. And in the case of this example of the governor I mentioned, you can just take a feed from their audio source, and now you've got audio into the camera, and you're sending synced audio and video straight to the YOLO Box, and you can go live right away. I mean, that is a very rudimentary setup, but it's a quick way to pop up and go live with a very, very small, concise package, which is great for stuff like news, and it allows you to be very fast. And it also allows me to offer a relatively inexpensive live stream. So for people who don't need a full broadcast stream, who just need to go live and have it look good and sound good, like this is the way to do it. And it does 4G bonded internet. Let's talk about bonded internet, because this is going to be something that is a reoccurring theme throughout every single package I offer. And to me, this is one of those examples that makes me a professional in this field versus people who don't offer something like this. When you think about live streaming, obviously you know or understand that there is internet involved. And the internet can come from multiple places. It could be a Wi-Fi source, it can be an Ethernet source, or it could be a cellular source, or even something like Starlink via a satellite source that you usually would use as Ethernet or Wi-Fi. The problem, though, is what happens if one of those sources of internet drops. If it drops, you're done. Game over. I have been a part of a live stream where that's happened. That is not a fun experience. So, how do you protect that from happening to you, or prevent that from happening to you? The answer is bonded internet. Now, I have two ways of offering bonded internet. I'll talk about the first way. The first way is through the YOLO Box itself. It actually has the ability to do bonded internet. You have to pay for a separate service fee to do it. But when you pay for that service, it allows you to take multiple internet sources and combine them together to create one source of internet, so that if one source breaks or fails, the other sources keep it going. In the case of the YOLO Box has an Ethernet input. It can also connect to Wi-Fi. And you can input a SIM card in a SIM card slot. And then it has two USB-A ports that you can use to add wireless dongles. Now, it can only do 4G. The other bonded service I use is 5G. And we'll save that for the next step up in live streaming packages. But for my most rudimentary package, this one camera, one audio source package, it's 4G. And so essentially what I do is I pay every month for unlimited AT&T, unlimited T-Mobile, and unlimited Verizon services. And I also pay for Starlink and have a Starlink panel. And I pay specifically for priority data. This is something that you have to like either go in person to get or talk to on the phone to get from these different providers. But essentially, I went in, explained my business, and was able to get priority data. And what that means is if you're in a congested area, maybe you're downtown Austin or Houston or wherever you live, or if you're at an event where there's a ton of people and there's a lot of congestion, you get priority data over everybody else. I mean, if you've ever been in a crowd, you've seen your cell phone service more than likely get to where it feels slow or bogged down. What I pay for is to get service before you. So let's say you have AT&T and I have AT&T. I get priority data, then you get data after me. That's what I pay for. It's the same thing that like first responders would have. So I pay for that service on AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, and I have SIM cards for all three services. Now I pay for 5G priority data, but it's backwards compatible to 4G. So in the case of the YOLO box, I plug in, let's just say AT&T in the SIM card slot, and then I have two wireless dongles that pop into the USB-A ports, and I have Verizon and then like T-Mobile and those dongles. That gives me 3 cellular sources of unlimited priority data. Then what I'll do is I'll take my Starlink panel and I'll connect it into the YOLO box with Wi-Fi or an Ethernet plug, Ethernet cable. And if there is local Wi-Fi or internet, I'll either plug that in to the YOLO box or connect to it via Wi-Fi. So in theory, if you're somewhere where there is local internet, you could, in my case, on the YOLO box, have 5 sources of internet: Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or let's just say Starlink, for example. So let's say the venue has local Wi-Fi, you add Starlink via Ethernet cable, so now you got Wi-Fi and satellite, then 3 SIM cards from 3 different service providers, and now all of a sudden you have 5 sources of internet, and you bond them together to create one internet source. Now, it's not necessarily making the internet faster, but what it's doing is making more reliable. And in live streaming, faster, I mean, yes, you need a relatively fast internet speed, but it doesn't need to be crazy. You don't even need anything. I mean, you could do a really great live stream with 10 megabits per second up if that's all you have. But what really matters most is that it's reliable. That's what I offer to all of my customers, no matter the size of live stream. And to me, that is a professional service. And this is one of the things that you pay for when you get like a professional live streaming service is you're getting something like that where like this thing is gonna work, man. Like unless we are in the middle of a cave that's way underground in the middle of nowhere, like I'm gonna be able to get through and have the ability to offer a live stream. And that to me is such a big deal for customers. And it's a big selling point for me because it's the reliability aspect. I will tell you when I work with a new customer for the first time, one of the first things they always say is, "This is going to work, right? Like this is for sure going to work, right?" I get asked that all the time. And the reason I get asked that is because they've either had experiences or have heard of experiences where a live stream didn't work. I mean, famously, look at the live stream I can't remember the show. I think it was, if I remember correctly, and I may be wrong here, but I think it was The Bachelor or Bachelorette or something like that went live on Netflix. And it was one of the first Netflix live events to ever happen. And it crashed. And people were really upset about it. You can't have that happen. And so whenever I offer live streaming services, bonded internet is one of the things that I explain to my customers so that they understand that what they get for what they're getting when they hire me is reliability, and they can count on the fact that it's going to work. So this YOLO box allows me to offer bonded 4G internet plus Wi-Fi and Ethernet, and allows me to still do the slides, lower thirds, all that on the back of my FX6. And I offer up to 1 audio source for this package. That could be, like I said, you could be taking a feed from someone or providing 1 mic. So a lot of times I'll provide like a wireless handheld mic or a lapel mic, something like that. Or I'll take a feed from a board in the case of something like the governor giving a speech. And that allows me to take an audio source, have a single video source, and go live and be able to roll an intro, have a lower third, roll an outro, call it a day. It's a full production because it's a polished product. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to go live. Like, no, it's a production. You have an intro, an image, graphics throughout, lower thirds, or whatever other graphics, and then an outro with an audio source. I mean, that is a full-on production. It might as well thrown it in DaVinci Resolve and edited it. And so that is like the most basic service we offer. The next is what we call our basic stream. So the basic stream is still one camera source, but now we're offering up to 2 wireless audio channels or wired audio channels. And now we're moving over to 5G bonded internet. So this helps with speed and increases reliability because I use a device called Peplink. So this is where things start to get a little bigger. I have to bring in a different unit, and I bring in a rack unit. If you don't know what a rack is, for those of you from the broadcast world or who work in audio video at like your church or something, you might have seen these shelving units where things are mounted. It could be like a control unit or a soundboard or something like that, and they go on racks. And so I have this rack box on wheels where the front and back panels come off. They stay on when you're transporting it. Think of it like a giant case that you throw on the back of the truck that's got wheels on it. But when you show up, I take the front and back of it off, and it exposes all of these devices I have mounted to my rack. And one of those devices is called a Peplink router. And this is a pretty expensive router. It's like $3,500 to $4,000, something like that. But it's an internet router that allows me to take multiple 5G wireless sources. So I take all my SIM cards and move them from the YOLO box to this device. And I still have the same priority unlimited data, but now I'm being able to utilize the 5G speeds. And it allows me to add not just 5G, but now I can add 2 wireless channels, so 2 sources of Wi-Fi, and 2 Ethernet ports. So now we're talking, I personally can run AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Starlink, plus let's just say another Ethernet source and 2 Wi-Fi sources. So that's like 7 sources of internet. Like, I mean, it would take an act of God to knock the, I don't even like saying that, but it would take something like that to knock out the connection. You know what I mean? Like it's good, it's solid, it's reliable. And I run that off the Peplink router. I pay for the bonded internet service just like I do with YOLOBox, and I pay monthly for AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon just like I do and Starlink just like I do for YOLOBox. It's just now it's in an even better setup that offers 5G and can connect to other internet sources. So it's a really great router, and that stays in the rack. And what's cool is that router acts as a router that connects and puts all of my devices on the same network. So for this is when I bring in usually a custom table. I've got a table that's got like my Rustic River Media logo on a tablecloth, and I'll bring in like a big OC 22-inch monitor. I'll bring in my Allen and Heath soundboard. I'll bring in my switcher panel. I'll bring the rack unit in. I've got the Peplink mounted. I've got HyperDecks. I've got all this other stuff. So it's a bigger setup. Got my own chairs and everything. But now I'm offering still a single camera, but a couple of different channels of audio, and we're offering 5G bonded internet, and things are going to feel even more polished than off the YOLO box because now I'm doing it off of a proper mixer. The next step up from there is what we call our standard stream. Now we introduce another camera to the equation, and we can introduce a presentation laptop input. So for example, if we have a presenter who's going to be, or maybe multiple presenters who are going to be presenting at a conference, we will offer multiple cameras, maybe a wide and a tight, and we'll even take a feed from their laptop and put it in as an extra input so we can cut between camera 1, camera 2, and their slides if they're giving like a presentation. And we can do picture-in-picture as well, where we pull up a slide and then have their image on the screen in like the bottom right-hand or left-hand corner. And we offer up to 4 audio channels with our soundboard for this. So 4 audio channels might be, we might have like maybe a podium mic, maybe a couple lapels, and maybe a wireless handheld. That way, if we have multiple speakers or we have an MC, or if the crowd wants to ask a question, we can take those multiple audio sources and feed them into our Allen and Heath digital board and be able to offer to the customer base a multiple camera, multiple audio source presentation that does include their own pre-prepared slides or pre-prepared video. We can play pre-made videos, all kinds of stuff. So that's our standard stream. From there, we step into our broadcast stream, and this is where we up the number of cameras to a maximum of 4, and we still include the presentation laptop, and now we offer up to 10 audio channels. So we own multiple wired or wireless handheld mics. We own like crowd mics. We own headset mics or earset mics, lapels, as well as podium mics. And so we'll bring up to 10 audio channels, run them through our Allen and Heath board, and we'll run up to like 3 to 4 cameras, depending on the need of the customer. And we can also at this price point start including things like iMag, where we can send what we're doing live to large screens in a room. So it's at a venue that has large screens, we can project what we're doing so people in the room that maybe are sitting in the far back can see everything really well. And so this is for like a larger scale event. And for basically when you start getting into the standard and broadcast streams, I'm starting to crew up at this point. I'm usually bringing in manned camera operators. I'm bringing usually someone to run the slides or graphics, because it's kind of difficult to run those while also trying to run the stream at the same time, like do all the camera switching. And then I'll bring in a sound engineer for both of these standard and broadcast streams. Just that way that person, in my case, Jake's a great sound guy. Jake handles all of our sounds, so that I'm not trying to do all that. And so we're when you start getting into standard and broadcast streams, we're crewing up, we're adding cameras, we're adding audio channels, and we're increasing the scale of the event. I just did 2 days of this exact same broadcast stream for a client here locally in New Braunfels, Texas, where I live, where we came in on Monday, and we spent like 5 hours or 6 hours setting everything up. And we ran 4 cameras. We had presenter slides or slide deck. We brought in remote presenters because there were like 2 or 3 people that had to present via remotely from wherever they were located, and we had to bring that onto the stream and into the room. We did run iMag. We even had a separate stream being played in an overflow room, so that people in the overflow room could watch what we're doing. And so we had a lot going on. So we did that. We set up on Monday, and we did the stream on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And they were long days, but very lucrative, really fun events to put on. The crew and I had a really great time. On all of these, I'm typically either directing only, or I might be directing and switching. I prefer to direct only. That way I can manage everything. For this one, I was directing and switching. But it was a lot of fun. But we just got through doing this just this week, and we do quite a few of these broadcast streams. I would say this is probably our most common streaming package and what we do the most of, and it's perfect for all kinds of different conferences and speaking engagements and things like that. And we do usually require a setup day ahead of time to get everything set up, because it's just too much to set all this up day of. But that is our broadcast stream. And then we also have our last one, which is our sports broadcast stream. This is everything I just mentioned, but now we're running 4 to 6 cameras, 10 audio channels, again up to 10, and we're increasing the crew size. Now we've got a bunch of camera operators. We've got instant replay operators. We bring instant replay in, and we start just increasing the overall production quality to a more intense level, because now we're having like real-time scoreboard graphics, we're having replay, we're having usually a lot of times there's advertisements that we have to play in between these sports broadcasts. So there might be like, this like a commercial break or something like that. And we'll have to have those loaded and ready to go. So this is our sports broadcast stream. So basically a more complicated version of the broadcast stream, and everything's happening a lot faster and needs more cameras because it's sports. And when you bring in instant replay, you need an instant replay operator to operate that. So again, increasing the size of the crew, but also allows you to put on a really slick production. So that is our most complicated live stream we offer. So rapid stream, basic stream, standard stream, broadcast stream, and sports broadcast stream. Those are the packages we offer. If you're interested in recapping that, it is on our website, where you can hit a drop-down menu and see the difference in all of these things I just mentioned, and get an outline of what all each service offers. Some other things that we offer too are graphics and overlays. We can build those graphics and bring in a graphics person. That comes standard on the broadcast stream, the sports broadcast stream. But for like the broadcast and standard streams, we do charge extra for graphics and overlays, purely from the standpoint that it takes time to create them, and then we have to have someone to run them. The person doing the switching can run graphics, but again, you're starting to put too many roles on one person. And because everything's happening live, it's really best to have a crew and to have, dedicated camera operators, someone who's operating graphics, someone who's operating replay if you have replay, someone who's operating sound, etc. It's really great to split all those roles up. It's even good to have what we call like a handler, someone who's just like handling things with a client, who can run around and do quick tech stuff, who can help fix things if something goes wrong, who can make sure people are mic'd up before they go on stage, etc. So we do typically try to crew up, and how big the crew is just really depends on the complexity of the job. And then another thing we offer is to do the house sound, and actually we prefer to do it. So typically, if you hire us to do like a standard stream, a broadcast stream, or a sports broadcast stream, and we're bringing in Jake, my sound guy, as part of the package for the live stream sound, we typically want Jake to handle the front of house as well, just because I want one person handling all of the sound, and I don't want it to be the venue sound person. I've had bad experiences with venue sound people. I want to bring in my guy. I know my guy. My guy knows me. He knows my workflow. He knows my gear. I want Jake there. So Jake is great. Jake is on tour with Wade Bowen right now, but he does all of our audio on all of our live stream events. And I really won't take on a live stream job without Jake, unless it's one of the really basic ones, just purely from the standpoint that sound is very complicated when it comes to live streams. When you're talking about running handheld mics and podium mics and lapels and everything else, and you're trying to do that and mix it for the front of house and mix it for the live stream and manage all those channels and do wireless frequency coordination and all the things that come into all that, turn mics on, turn them off, fade them on, fade them off. You need a person to do that, and you need that person to be really good, because the sound is the most critical part, right? You could listen to a live stream and have a slide on the whole time and still get the point across, and people might still stay on and watch it or listen to it because they just want to hear the message. But if you've got really great video and people can't hear, they're not going to watch it. So audio is arguably the most important aspect of a live stream, beyond the reliability of the internet. I guess reliability is probably the most important. But sound, I would put sound as like number 2 on that list. And so that's why for me, I won't do any of these more complicated streams without Jake being there. So those are the kind of different tiers and packages that we offer, and we can offer things to even increase the packages beyond that. So if let's say we're doing a boat race and we want to bring in a drone for an opening and closing shots, or for certain periods during the boat race, we can do that. I can actually take a feed out of my Mavic 3 Cine and offer live drone shots, which is cool. Obviously, that's going to be an upgrade charge because you need someone to operate the drone and to fly it, because I can't be streaming and switching and directing and flying a drone all at once. So now you're bringing in a drone operator, but we can do it. I can bring in an operator that can run my drone, and we can offer that to increase the production quality of the live stream. So as you see, like, there are a lot of levels that you can go down, and you can go really deep down the rabbit trail of how big these live streams get. And I mentioned earlier, like 4 to 6 cameras for sports, but we can add cameras for an additional rate. So if we want to do like a really serious sports broadcast like football, and we want to have more than like 6 camera angles, we can do that. We can bring in a PTZ cameras and a PTZ camera operator, and operate with a ton of cameras. I mean, really, it's kind of limitless. Depends on how much money you want to pay, but you get the point. So these packages are just starting points, but you can add on to them depending on your needs. And that's what's really cool about live streaming, is that there are so many layers that you can go down, and you can make these things simple or you can make them very complex. But all of it comes with an additional cash flow, which is additional revenue for your business. Now, you have to be able to handle it all, and it's got to work. But if you can figure out how to add all these items and how to get good and comfortable and experience with it, you can see how you can make a really good living offering just live streaming, because there's so many layers that you can go down. So let's talk about some of the devices I have. So I've talked about some of the internet bonding devices, but let's talk about some of the other things I add to my live streams that help me make them more effective. So beyond the internet bonding devices and the YOLO box, some other things that we have are, we have our Allen & Heath CQ 18T soundboard. I like this board because it's an 18-track digital soundboard that you can mix on the board itself or via an iPad. Jake really likes to go and mix off the iPad so he can take it with him in the crowd to listen to front of house from the crowd perspective, or if he needs to run up on stage and do anything, he can, and still be able to control everything from his iPad. And then it also, not only does it have like 18 inputs and a whole bunch of outputs, but it also has really clean preamps, and it can do ISO recordings. So if you know going in that you want to do post-production and you want to have unmixed audio, you can record the mix as well as ISO tracks. So if you have 10 mics hooked up, you can go and add 10 ISO tracks and the mix track, so you can go in and post-production and further edit the audio to taste. Because as good as Jake is with live sound, the reality is you can always control things more in post-production when you're not under the pressure of doing things live. And so being able to record ISO tracks is really nice. The same is true on our ATEM. So we run an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO as kind of our primary recording device, or streaming device, but it does have the ability to record. And so when you record off the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, the reason why it's called ISO at the end of the name is that it can record your live stream as well as individual tracks of every single audio and camera feed. And so for all the camera feeds, the presenter's laptop feed, any sort of hyperdecks, pre-made videos you play, pre-made slides or slide decks, like any of that stuff that you do is recorded onto an SSD drive that you can then use for post-production. It also creates a real-time DaVinci Resolve project file, and that is really cool. I edit in Resolve already, so does my editor, but what's awesome is not only do we already work in Resolve, but imagine this device is creating a project file, a literal DaVinci Resolve file that you can click and pull up after the fact. And this project file is recording everything you do in the stream. Not just the ISO tracks, but every time you switch camera angles, every time you crossfade from a camera to another, or do a dip to black, or anytime you pull up a graphic or play a pre-made video, no matter what it is that you do, it's all being saved in real time on a timeline. On a Resolve project file. So you can pull up DaVinci Resolve, this project file, after the stream has happened, and go back in and edit your stream after the fact, which allows you to go in and cut all these projects up, polish them. Again, as mentioned a minute ago, like you're going to make mistakes when you're live. It's just part of being a human. It's human nature, right? You're not going to always cut the exact moment you wish, that you wish you would have in hindsight. Like, I shouldn't have cut there, or I should have cut sooner. Like you can fix all that in post. And so if the client is wanting to pay, I talked about this earlier in the podcast about the upsell. If the client is wanting to pay as an upsell for you to come in and do post-production services on the stream, clean it up or cut out individual presentations or anything, you can pull up the project file and use ISO tracks from the Resolve recording. And then I can even add the ISO tracks from my Allen and Heath board and have clean, unaltered audio to edit off of that I can sweeten and post, and then be able to fix anything I did in the live stream in post as well, which is really, really, really cool. Another thing that we have is the DaVinci Resolve, not DaVinci Resolve, but the Blackmagic replay board, instant replay board. So this is a board that's got a bunch of keys on it. It's got a jog wheel, and it creates what's called growing files. And we do this through a Blackmagic Ultra Studio. So basically, the ATEM sends a feed out to the Ultra Studio and sends all the cameras as ISO tracks out to this Ultra Studio that's mounted to our rack. The Ultra Studio sends all those feeds into my laptop. My laptop then, if you open up DaVinci Resolve, creates a real-time project file, as mentioned a minute ago. But now, because of the Ultra Studio, the files, you can watch them grow in real time. And so, like, literally, imagine you're on a timeline. You've got video and audio on your timeline, but your timeline, your files on the timeline are growing in real time. Like, as they're being recorded or written to, they are literally growing on your timeline, and which is cool because then you can take your instant replay board and shuffle backward using the jog wheel and hit play on something that just happened or something that happened a long time ago. It doesn't have to have just happened, but you could jog back, find the spot that you want to do for replay, hit play, and then on your ATEM, switch to that input because it takes the laptop and inputs it back into the ATEM as an input, and now you can play instant replay live and cut between angles live. So because it's doing it off the ISO tracks. So on this board, you can hit play and go from camera 1 to 2 to 4 to 3 or however it is you want to do it. And with a jog wheel, you can also go from real time to slow motion and back. It's really cool. So if you want to incorporate slow motion as well as being able to cut between cameras on replay, you can do it. It's a pretty cool device. So that's something that we offer, and that takes a dedicated crew member to operate. But it is a really, really, really cool device that we have. We also have a pair of HyperDecks. We've got HyperDeck Shuffle that allows us to play back pre-made videos, and then we have a HyperDeck Studio. I think it's the Studio HD maybe. But it records, I use it for two reasons. I use it to record a separate copy of the live stream, so I have a backup copy. And then I also use it to output IMAG, video and audio out of the stream if I need to run IMAG, which is basically, again, putting the video, pulling it up on really big screens. You could do that straight from the ATEM, but I do it through the HyperDeck for a few different reasons. I won't jump into all that, but we have that. We have, as mentioned earlier, we have a bunch of different mics. We offer handheld mics in addition to ear set mics and lapel mics and podium mics, crowd mics, etc. We also have, I run an OC 22-inch monitor. Really like that monitor. It's a 10-bit production monitor. It's really bright. The colors look great on it. It's got built-in tools like zebras, waveforms, vector scopes, false color, focus peaking. So I can check all the camera angles either one at a time or on a multi-view on that screen. I also use a Blackmagic micro panel, which allows me to basically, I never touch my ATEM. My ATEM stays in my rack unit, and every device I have runs off of my network. And so this goes back to my comment earlier about how I have a Peplink internet router bonding device that puts everything on one network. And so when I show up and I turn my rack unit on and plug my laptop in via USB-C, and I have this like CalDigit docking station that I run everything through. But what it does is allows everything to instantly connect to the same network, so that my ATEM, my HyperDex, my Ultra Studio, my laptop, my internet bonding device, I mean, everything's on the same network and they all talk to each other, which is really, really, really great. So everything just works. I also have, I like to keep a Stream Deck XL on me as well, so I can add additional custom keys and things like that to my live stream. I'll use that to control slide decks. I'll use it to control Zoom calls. I'll use it to control the HyperDex, even the ATEM sometimes. So I use the Stream Deck XL. I have another one of those I use in my office for editing off of as well. It's a really cool device. So yeah, I mean, that's some of the things that we offer in terms of what's in our rack unit. I also bring a portable silent generator, and most of the time, if I'm doing any stream outside of the very basic rapid stream, anything else, I'm bringing our silent generator. This is an Anchor generator. What I like about it is I will plug my rack unit into the generator, and if the power ever were to go out in the building, which I have had happen before, 5 minutes before a live stream started, the power went out in a building, and ironically, it was a live stream for the power company who provided the power in the building. It was hilarious because the whole live stream was like a public service announcement to address upset customers, and then their power in their own in the building that they provide power to went out 5 minutes before the stream started. It's pretty funny, and very ironic. But because of that, I had a generator I use for my production work in general, but I started bringing it and plugging my rack unit into that, and then I plug that into the wall. That way, if the power ever goes out, the generator keeps everything going. And then I also use it to charge batteries and stuff on the fly. It's really great because it has a lot of ports on it. And then we have comms units. I'm really big on on having really good comms. I use the Hollyland Soliticom Pros, I think. I've got a bunch of those. Right now I have 4, but I'm about to upgrade, and I'm going to have 9 total, and that allows me to just be able to communicate with my crew, which is really essential for live streaming. And then I offer a bunch of cameras. Right now we're running FX6s, FX3s, A1s, A1 and I'm going to buy a bunch of PTZs. I'm probably going to upgrade my FX3 and FX6 at some point to FX5s and either a Burano or a future FX7. We'll see what shakes out. And then from there, we offer Teradek units. We bought into Teradek units, specifically the Bolt 750s, and that allows us to be able to go wireless on our video feed when possible. Sometimes we can't do that. My podcast next week is going to talk a little bit about that. But when we can, we will run Teradek units just so we can cut out the need to run cables, long length of cables, which is really nice. So I love the Teradek units. They were expensive. Buying 4 of them set me back like 15 or 20 grand. And I still have more money I want to spend on those in terms of like adding antenna arrays. There's a device that allows you to run multiple receivers with one transmitter, so that but where they daisy chain, so that if someone wants to let's say we have someone operating a wireless camera on a gimbal or on an easy rig, and let's say they're following the action from inside a room to outside a building, I can have receivers stationed all over the place. And then this device that will be bolted in my rack unit will be intelligent and will know to jump from receiver to receiver as that transmitter moves throughout the building or from inside to outside, etc. That's something I want to add at some point, but that's a pretty cool device. But all the Teradek units have been amazing. We also have a lot of cables. I mean, we have 1 million cables. We run a lot of these 165-foot fiber optic Ethernet or HDMI cables that we use for when we need to do long runs and we can't do wireless for some reason. And then, of course, we have 100 million XLR cables, it seems like, and all kinds of different breakout cables that allow us to go from like XLR to 1/8, XLR to quarter, XLR to quarter female, XLR to 1/8 female. You know what I mean? Like tons of stuff. RCA, like I can go on and on. We have HDMI video extractors. lot of different pieces of technology that allow us, and cabling and things that allow us to be able to take feeds from all kinds of different sources and find a way to get them into either the ATEM or get them into our soundboard. And I'm sure I'm missing stuff beyond all that, but I mean, that kind of gives you a pretty good idea on kind of how much gear I have involved in live streaming and how serious I am about it. Because to me, this is a very profitable business to be into. There's a lot less competition, and it's a whole heck of a lot of fun. It's stressful. Everything's happening live, and if something goes wrong, it's all on you, and all eyes are looking at you. But it's a lot of cool technology. It's a lot of fun to be in. There's a lot less competition. You could charge a lot more, and it's fun, man. And when you sit back and you pull it off, it just puts a big smile on your face. Like, wow, we did that. We came in here, we set all this up, and we pulled this off. And so that's kind of what my live streaming setup looks like. That's why I'm interested in live streaming, why it's such a big part of my business, why you see me post about it from time to time. I'm all about it, and I would do a ton of these. I already do a ton of them, but I would do almost all live streaming if I could, just because of how profitable it is. So I'm continuing to grow that side of the business. But if you are not offering live streaming services yet, you truly are missing out. And you could start small and work your way up, but just understand that this is a very lucrative business to be into, and there's just not a lot of people doing it. So that's my spiel on live streaming. Do you live stream? And if so, what does your setup look like? And what does the market look like for live streaming in your area, if you know? I'm curious. I would like to hear from you. Go to Filming with Josh on Facebook. That is a private Facebook group called Filming with Josh, where you can go and ask to be a member, and I'll approve you when I see it. And you can join in conversations about our podcast topics. I post all the podcasts there. You can comment directly on them. You can also post your work, ask for feedback. You can start up a conversation about gear you're looking to buy, whatever it is, anything video related. Go to Filming with Josh on Facebook, ask to join the group, and let's have a conversation about live streaming in your market. Also, if you are not yet following the podcast, I would love for you to subscribe. Please rate the podcast and let me know how you like it and what things you would like to hear me talk about next. I appreciate you guys. I have a really fun podcast in the work coming out in the next couple weeks that is about the craziest live stream job I've ever done in my life. We just wrapped it up a few weeks ago. Well, actually, we wrapped it up last week. A very, very crazy, very interesting live stream, and I can't wait to talk to you all about it. So I'll see you all then. Take care.
To learn more about Rustic River Media, visit us online at rusticriver.media. Thanks for listening to the Filming with Josh podcast. Catch every episode by hitting subscribe today.